And this afternoon we are joined by our esteemed product design jury. Just to get us started, would you mind just quickly introducing yourselves, letting us know where you're from, and if this is your first experience of judging at Cannes Lions, or if you're a seasoned judge, or a little bit about you?
So I'm Gregory Polletta, and I'm a designer, engineer, research scientist, work between London, New York, Paris, and Milan. This is my first time as a judge at Cannes. It's been super. Our jury was extremely, passionate and focused, and there's a lot of energy in the room, and we really fought it out. And so I'm really excited to be here. And yeah,
we can't not talk about your Grand Prix, the selection of Payphone Bank, which of course is extraordinary, but in the context of product design, I'd love to know, and I know the debate was intense and ongoing around the selection of that particular piece of work, because the Grand Prix, if anything, sends a message. I'd love to hear from you all a little bit about the process of choosing it, the nature of the discussion, and just why it moved you so much.
We went through 4 rounds, so there were four deadlocks, and Ruth had to break it 4 times, and every one of the 4 times it got stuck. It didn't get anywhere. So even with
I have no influence, but still,
even with Ruth's sort of deciding vote, they had to make us do it again. So there was a whole lot of really powerful argumentation about this, because this particular entry is very much a serious product. Okay, it is an object. It has a functional capability. It's mechanical, and then plus it has all the systems behind it, and then on top of it, it does a tremendous amount for social good. So there were a lot of other products that were there that, they had a lot of impact. But this one directly affects the users in a very particular way that's also a physical, usable, mechanical product. So when we went through it, I got swayed. In the end, I got swayed. I did not vote for it each of the 4 times. And then at the end, I had no choice based on the arguments that we were having, and we demanded a lot from Cannes. We said, we want to know exactly these things, and we weren't going to make a decision until Cannes gave us the effort. And then they called the agency, they called the developers, they came back with all this information in an hour. And with that information, we were able to make a more informed decision. So this particular, entry has a huge direct to the end user impact, not just something beautiful or fun or happy, but really can save things for their lives. And it's a big effort for a product design category.
Yeah. Okay, Gregory, let's look at your piece. Again, very different again. This one is Air Ink by Marcel Sidney. Let's see the third. Thank you.
Yeah. What if we could use this tech to turn air pollution into ink, and then create a range of tools for artists to spread a positive message? We call this Air Ink. Our client loved it. We contacted the person who created the candle video, a scientist named Anirudh Sharma. Over a Skype call, we told him our idea. Rather than capturing soot from a candle, could we clean the air with this technology? Anirudh explained that it wasn't feasible to capture pollution on a large scale from the air, but he was working on a way to capture soot from exhaust pipes. He loved the idea of giving the ink to street artists, so we entered a partnership with Tiger Beer. Together, we turned the prototype into a reality. Here's Anirudh to explain how it works.
We fit these devices onto exhaust tailpipes. The units capture air pollution before it enters the environment. The harvested carbon is then purified in a lab and turned into safe and high-quality inks.
Each pen contained 40 to 130 minutes of diesel car emissions. We used Tiger's distribution centers to attach these devices onto ferries, cranes, and Tiger Beer delivery trucks to lower emissions and make ink. Overall, we made 770 liters of air ink, preventing more than 20,000 hours of carbon emissions entering the air. We gave air ink to artists and activists all around the world. They couldn't get enough of it. Neither could the media. Finally, we, along with our Tiger client and Anirudh, are giving a Cannes Innovation Lions talk on June 19th to discuss the air ink journey and what applied innovation is about. Propelling a brand forward with breakthrough ideas, revolutionary technology, and forward-thinking collaboration.
What was it about this that particularly impressed you, Gregory?
I had no choice with this one in a way, because as an engineer, it has incredible science and engineering behind it. As a business person, it affects a brand. As a designer, it gives a voice to artists with the other two portions built in, and it's black and white, and I love black and white. And it really is a breakthrough if they do something with it. So the ramifications of this particular technology that a scientist has developed that went to advertising, and again, I'm not an advertiser in any way, and Cannes really was never important to me as an award show, but when they started doing product design, I thought, all right, now there's an excuse to talk about products that actually do something, and if it affects advertising, great, but it doesn't really matter to me personally. And this one has it all. So, they've started something that could be used in another way that could be very effective. And it was difficult because, I had to cheat a little bit for this interview because, this is an amazing product and it's ridiculously simple, and it should be in any country that can't afford or can't have an infrastructure to allow kids to be able to have their immunity records. The Snapchat glasses are unbelievably genius. It's like looking at an iPhone 1. The little band that the Chinese agency did that saved 800 people's jobs for a year. These are all small little things, but this one was so encompassing to me as a person. And it gave artists a capability. And if they take this to the next level scientifically, it could be that this little device gets patented, put onto cars, and then as a new way of reclaiming ink for things like printing. So as soon as I can, I'm going to call the research labs where I used to work at Xerox and say, now this is a new way to make ink. Or maybe HP is already on top of it. And this has a tremendous effect to not only art and design, but science as well. So I had no choice. It picked me.
Gregory, would you just tell us about the Golden Triangle briefly? Because I think that your raw technology, business innovation, design is helpful for people.
Whenever I work with any large organization to either develop a product or if I'm training, let's say, a government group, and my firm's been very lucky. I mean, we've done things for governments like the government of Singapore. We've done things for corporations, billion-dollar corporations, the military, everything, and it's a huge gamut of people. And the category that this falls into, and this is why I was so challenged as an individual, is because I force, and I use that word very carefully, people to equally value three things, which I call the Golden Triangle, and I teach this whenever I'm doing lecturing at universities. Equally, a product should be functional engineering, business effective, ROI, and beautiful, objectively capable design. So when something is really balanced well, it's an amazing product. And so, something like the child's bracelet, ridiculously simple, effective for the users, technologically advanced, great. The Snapchat glasses, it's like looking at the Apple One. It's ridiculous as an object. It's so good. We played with this thing constantly. We knew it was amazing for the size, and it effectively balances all three. So the Golden Triangle is something that's been around for years. I just gave it a new name. But if you look at the most effective products, they are equally capable in all three. And then with the additional sort of bump up, if you will, from advertising power, which is often bought and sometimes just exists, then something becomes super ordinary. And everybody remembers the first time you saw the first iPhone 1. The thing was, there were other phones out at the time, and they all did amazing things, but the balance of the three made it incredible. And so, same thing with the payphone. That's why we gave it the Grand Prix. It's a very effective tool that I just use when I'm looking at something. When we're working with clients or pitching or anything else. And I think everybody does it unconsciously. I mean, I'm sure everybody here does this unconsciously.
Just to conclude then, if there's nobody in the crowd that wants to ask, two things quickly from each of you before we wrap up. From everything that you've seen and experienced over the last 4 days, one piece of advice for the jurors who will be coming through in 2018 to judge the product design lines, what would you advise to them? And a piece of advice for people who might be thinking of submitting their work into the product design lines for next year?
First piece of advice I would give is do not think you can't submit because you don't have an agency behind you. I mean, Cannes is very advertising centric, and to me, I don't think that matters at all, because if your product is amazing, then you may get advertisers after you submit. So the first piece of advice is ignore the fact that it's Cannes and just pay attention to the fact that the people who are seeing it are, very powerful individuals in the world and may decide that your thing is amazing. So it's a very big opportunity. And the second thing is, there are a lot of companies that have incredible products, and they don't bother to hire a designer. So you could literally you could have the most amazing product, and then you hire a designer to do the board, the details, the movie, the description, and then everything else, which doesn't cost very much at all. And then all of a sudden you're at Cannes. Because, when we reviewed things, we actually had this discussion a lot, which was that the movie, which was like 3 minutes, so a 3-minute video costs very much, it costs nothing, okay? A 3-minute video, if done properly, can communicate everything, and you walk away and you have an emotional response and you're like, I love it. And then it's good anyway because you're already evaluating it as a product. So, to hire a designer to do your Cannes submission could give you an enormous world of benefit that you would have never had you not applied to Cannes. And, as Ruth said earlier, just to get shortlisted apparently is enormous. And this is your world, right? So it's enormous. And then if you win an award, that's off the chart. So if you never even knew about Cannes and all you had to do was make a 3-minute video and a couple of decent description boards, and it could change your entire firm, that's the advice I would give is, apply.